Oh, welcome to the Sharpe Show. So happy to have you with me here today, a little bit past 8 p.m. on the East Coast. And I'm doing something different today. Yes, I am. I told you guys, if those of you who are paying attention, I was going to start doing some reaction shows. You guys care about this, and I get it. So I had a couple people reach out and send me a couple things. And if you want to be someone, you have to be a member of either the Larry Sharpe or Sharpeware YouTube, either one of those two. Head on over to the YouTube page and go under posts or community, whichever one you have, post or community. And there's a link there that says, hey, if you want something, there's a picture of a guy getting a bunch of gifts. Go to that picture, give you the email address, email me what you would like me to look at, and decide if I want to react to it. If it's short, I may watch the whole thing. If it's short, if it's long, I watch a chunk of it before I start. If it's 2 hours long, tell me where to look. I'm not going to watch a 2-hour thing if you don't tell me where to look. So if it's 2 hours, say, hey, look at this spot, do that. And I'll have a shot actually looking at it and decide if I want to react to it. This one I thought was interesting. I didn't expect this. I would, as I said I would react to anything. I don't care if it's like, I don't know, cats or something. I would react to anything. If I know people like that stuff, I thought I would do that. So I am doing it this time. And I hope that it will be interesting. I think it will be because it is actually someone who I think that I've heard often. It's an argument that says, it's basically the tax the rich argument. Is basically what the argument is. The way we will fix it is actually the way we'll fix the world is by just taxing the rich. And I don't want to talk about that issue specifically. I'm going to react to this specific video. This is a professor who, of course, is teaching our kids, and he's telling them what is right and what is wrong. And what I want to bring up here that's important is half of this he's just making up. I mean, I don't mean to be cruel about that, but at least half of this, he's literally just making up. Let me see if I can get over here and make sure I'm not missing anybody here. I want to make sure I'm not missing anybody here. I don't think I'm missing anybody here. Yeah, okay. To make sure I wasn't missing anybody here who's running this thing. All right, let me share this with you so that you can see it, and you'll see what I mean. This gentleman, he's a true believer. I will give him that. This guy is a true believer. That is for sure.
If you were to go backwards in time and go to, say, the year 1906, or let's just do 1900.
1900. He says, let's go back to 1900. Now, forget that. He says 1900.
You were to look at the wealth distribution between the poorest segment of the U.S. population and the richest segment of the U.S. population, you would have found that there was a really big gap.
That is accurate. I love that point. He's correct. There was a large gap. Accurate. 1900, large gap. He is correct. Yes.
And if you did a chart of that gap, you would have found over time that that gap was shrinking.
Oh,
probably the low point, the point at which we were the most egalitarian, was right around 1973.
So what he's saying is, if you listen to him, and he's telling the students here, from 1900, it's just been going down right there, going down to 1973, which is when we were as equal as we could be. That is undoubtedly, demonstrably untrue. Not true. That is not a fact. That is utterly not a fact. The wealth gap exploded in the 20s when we had a depression, and also during World War II. So not true. What he just said is not true. If you go back, it was a wealth gap, true, and it started going down, then went right back up, and during the depression, 1920s, it went right back up. So not true. It was a bump. He said that. They don't know any better because they're students, but that's absolutely not. That's incorrect. The wealth gap actually started shrinking a lot after World War II. That's accurate. After World War II, it began to shrink to around 1973. That's accurate. Around the 70s, that part's true. He doesn't say that because what he wants you to believe is all that matters is bad Reagan or whatever.
If you took that chart and you ran it for how polarized we were. So you looked at how far apart the Democrats were from the Republicans, like how often were laws passed in Congress written
Yeah.
by and supported by both parties. How
Right.
frequently did Republican presidents sign Democratic legislation? How frequently did Democratic presidents sign Republican legislation? If you did that,
I think if I remember back in the 1920s in that regard, I don't remember, maybe it's me, you guys know this, I don't remember Republicans at that point marching with the KKK in DC. I don't remember that. I remember Democrats doing that, though. I remember that. I remember Woodrow Wilson literally resegregating the federal government, resegregating it. It was desegregated before. And Wilson walked in and went, "Oh, no, we can't have that," and then resegregated. And then in the White House, he watched that movie Birth of a Nation. That was Wilson. I don't think they were the same as you might think. I mean, maybe they signed some legislation, but I would think right now that's probably not the same right now.
you would have found that our polarization was also shrinking. And probably the point at which we got closest to having no polarization was sometime around or before 1973.
Sometime around 70. That's accurate. Now, what he's actually saying is what he won't tell you is the two big issues that happened around that time. Well, there's a couple of them. There's a bunch of big issues. He'll mention none of them. But one of the biggest ones is Nixon and the Vietnam War, right? That is a huge change in America. He will not bring that up at all. He will say the entire thing is because taxes. I'm not joking. His entire thing is because taxes. He avoids World War II. He avoids the Vietnam War. He avoids Nixon, all of that.
The likelihood that you could be born to the lower class and work your way out of the lower class and end up in the middle class, that's one of those that increased as well. Life expectancy increasing as well.
The life expectancy, that's true. That's because taxes? I don't think that's because taxes. I just want to be clear. The name of this video, I'm not joking, the name of the video is When Rich Got Taxed 91% and Everyone Was Better Off. He's talking about life expectancy. So if I want to live longer, just tax me more? Is that how that works? This is just the propagandist. I don't mean to be mean or cruel. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm telling you the truth. This is just the propagandist. And this guy is very popular. Like, you can see him everywhere. I looked him up. Is this guy real? He's real. He's everywhere. He's like some of these guys, they kind of have to stay in college because they can't make it anyplace else, because he'd be laughed out of any other room. There's no way that he'd be laughed out of the room.
Like, if you look at all these social dynamics and you start in 1900 and you run it towards 1973, you would have found that they were all going in the direction that I think most people would agree was exactly the direction that was desirable.
I would say he's correct in that we would agree. I think everybody would like us to have less of a wealth gap. I think that's true. But from 1900, there's a straight line down. Yeah, no, that's not true.
In fact, post-World War II,
now he says it.
There was a deliberate attempt to make some of that accelerate and get a little bit faster.
That also is not accurate. There was not an attempt to do so. I'll explain why in a second.
By the 1970s, by the way, in terms of hours worked per week, it was coming down at such a fast pace that there were serious refereed economics journal articles that talked about the 0-hour work week.
That just shows how fucking stupid you academics are. That's all that does. It shows how lost you are that you would ever think there'd be a 0-hour work week. He's proud of that. He's proud of that insanity he just said. He's like, referee peer groups. We're dumb as shit and everyone thinks we're stupid. No one checks us. We just say all kinds of dumb stuff. He's proud of that. He's proud. 0-hour work week because you'll just log in and do your work and leave. What? He's actually proud of that. That's insanely dumb. Yes, you should laugh at that.
The speculation was that you would just be able, because they knew computers were coming eventually, you would just be able to log into a computer for 30 minutes a week or something like that, do your job, and then have the rest of the time off.
That's because that's what he does. That's their lives. They walk in and say things like, yeah, I didn't prepare at all. I'm just going to say socialism good. And then I'm going to walk away. And you guys, because you're all basically kids, you'll just believe me because you don't have any life experience.
Like, we were honestly thinking about what the transformation of our system.
I know you were, and you should be embarrassed that you should have. Here's what he should have said. He should have said, you know, the problem is we spent some time, and we were so shocked by this that we made a lot of errors. And some of our errors, some of us actually believed that there'd be a 0-hour work week. I mean, that was dumb of us, but we actually thought, if he had said that, I'd been like, you know what, that makes sense. I could see you being, yeah, I could see it, but no. He's not. He's proud of it.
In fact, Piketty, the French author who wrote, was it Capital in the 20th Century? I'm trying to remember the name of the book. Anyway, it was really popular 3 years ago, but nobody remembers it anymore.
Because it was garbage.
What he did was he looked at a huge swath of time, and he looked at all the economics data that we had for it. And he tried to find the time, that moment, when in human history, not U.S. history, in human history,
tell me,
where you could work your way out of your class and move up a class, where you could, through work, actually gain wealth.
I feel like you could do that in most capitalistic systems. Am I wrong on that one? Through work, you could gain money. That's what he's saying. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have more feudalistic, you probably can't. If you're a sharecropper, very hard to do so, right? Difficult to do so. In those words, slavery, obviously, no. If you're a woman at a certain point in history, of course, no. And you'd have to get ahead either through marriage if you're a woman or through violence if you're a man. I get that. But we're talking about 1900 on. At that point, that's kind of how everybody in America kind of made any money, if they did, or they didn't.
Like that, where that was a real thing and it was really possible.
Real thing.
And of course, he discovered it. It happened once.
One time only.
Human experience.
In the human experience, this is what he just said. He just said, one time in the human experience where you can work and get ahead. Well, tell me when that was. I guess it's not now, but tell me when that was, Mr. Cool French guy who everyone forgot his book. He admits everyone's forgotten his book 3 years ago. He self-reports on how incompetent all his people are, and the kids are there going, yeah, it just sounds great.
And it was about a 25-year window.
25-year
And with what I just said right now, it'll probably surprise you to find out that 25 years was approximately 1948 to 1973. Now,
he just lied to himself. He just told me, you just heard him. He said from 1900 until 1973, everything was going great. You know what he said? He said we were all together. Democrats, Republicans used to hug each other and give them big, fat, wet kisses whenever they met each other. That's what he just said, right? And then he said, and then we were all great, and the tax rate was going up, and everything was awesome. That's what he said. Then he said, no. 25-year period from 1948. What was happening in the world in 1948? Oh, I remember. Oh, right. The end of World War II, where we had bombed out every industrialized country, and it was just us. When America was 50% or more of all global manufacturing. When we were the monopoly in the world, and we controlled everything, and we now have become the reserve currency. Weird how we could have a 25 years of expansion when you're a monopoly with the reserve currency and the rest of the world's been bombed out, who physically couldn't make stuff because their factories and families were all blown to pieces. But that's not what the title says. The title says, when rich got taxed 91% and everyone was better off. So I guess that whole World War II, everything being bombed out, us dominating the world, that was nothing. That was just, it was a 91% taxes. That's what did it. He's smiling. And these people in there going, yeah, it makes total sense.
In 1973, if I remember correctly,
tell me.
UT's tuition was $70, which
$70.
I believe if you put it into today dollars would be about $300. So who here would be upset if they were going to pay $300 in tuition? No, nobody's raising their hand. That's
okay. Wait a minute. Now he's done tuition. I thought this whole thing is about 91% taxes. That's what he said, right? Did I miss that? I don't know. Oh, Garrett likes what he's hearing because Garrett just gifted 10 memberships. Guys, grab those memberships. Why do you want those Here's why you want those memberships today. Here's why. Because if you take the membership, you now can send me a video that you want me to react to. Extra bonus. Look at that. Grab those memberships. Do that. Email me so we can see what we want to talk about for next time that we do this. So please do that. It's very important. Now, remember I used to have the rule that if you made $10 million in a week, that you can't take his membership, you got to pay for it? Okay, different rule now. If you're taxed at 91%, you may not take this because that means you're super gazillion rich. So you may not do that. So if you're taxed at 91%, you may not take this. But if you tax less than 91%, and for some of you in New York and California, you're going to need a calculator to figure out if you're up there. So there we go. There's your new rule. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate it. By the way, since we're talking about that, do me a favor, click the button known as Lima, India, Kilo, Echo. Click that button. Do it now, right? Otherwise, you're going to get taxed at 91%. That's how that works. I don't make the rules, guys. That's what happens. So do it. Not just that, though. Repost this, reshare this right now if you would. The more you share, the more you repost, the more people see this. It does matter. If you want to super chat me, of course, you can super chat me on YouTube or rant me on Rumble. All good. That's great if you can do so. But either way, no matter what, please follow me if you would. Follow me on YouTube. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on X. Follow me on all the things. If you want to become a member, you can. Grab one of Garrett's. It's awesome. Garrett, coming in hard again. I appreciate it. Absolutely. So let me keep going down here.
That's fascinating.
Fascinating.
That happened deliberately.
He can't figure out why that happened. I just told you why. And if you think I'm making that up, you can do a simple Google search, a simple YouTube search. America was over 50% of all global manufacturing. And because of the Bretton Woods Agreement, we were now the reserve currency. We had replaced the British Empire. Yeah, of course. And now add one more piece. We have all this manufacturing to rebuild the entire world, which was bombed out. We didn't have enough bodies. We didn't have enough bodies. So we needed more and more bodies to come in and do this.
The reason they're charging tuition is really simple.
Okay, listen to this one. There's a reason. Why are they charging tuition? Why do you think they're charging tuitions? What's the reason behind that? Could it be to make money? No. What's wrong with you? Making money. It's not why. I'll tell you why. He's going to tell you right now why he did it. Go ahead, tell me.
It does two things, really. One,
okay, two things.
It takes you out of the protest force.
See that? It takes you out of the protest force. It's not for money. Protest force. Duh.
If you're paying tuition, you have to get a job. If you have a job, you have less time, you have less energy, you have less motivation to go.
See that? What they care about, whoever they is, they, the bad guys, they, the evil people, maybe let's be, maybe, I don't know, whatever. Those people, they said, hey, you got to charge tuition. And the colleges said, why? We don't want to charge tuition because I don't know why. We don't do that. Even though he said they do it. He said they have tuition. Then he goes, you know why they charge it? Okay, tell me why. And he says, to get these people out of the protesting. What? Yeah, to get them out of protesting. So we're going to charge tuition to get them out of protesting. Yes. How? Because then they'll have to get jobs. And this is what he just said. They'll get jobs and then they won't have time. That's what he said. Do you understand how stupid this is? Do you get how brain dead? I'm sorry, that's not true. Do you get how you have to look at your students as brain dead for them to accept that as true? Do you get why this guy has to stay in colleges? If he were to be outside of a college, he would be eaten alive with that stupid shit. If I'm in his boardroom and they bring this guy and he goes, we got to start, charging stuff. Okay, great. Let me ask why. Well, to keep people out of the what? Why is this guy here? Will someone please throw him out before I throw him out of the window? What is wrong with this guy? But he's getting paid. He's teaching our children this stupidity.
Go out and organize and protest. And
because now, luckily, because now we charge all this tuition, there's no more protests. Oh, wait. Well, like a place like Columbia has so much, there's surely no protest. Oh, wait. Well, there's other colleges, I'm sure there's no oh, wait. Yeah, makes no sense. And he actually said that.
Right? When we began ramping up the public school tuitions was in the early 70s, in the aftermath of the 60s.
What could have changed in the early 70s? Trying to figure out what happened in the early. Oh, wait, was it the 1965 Higher Education Act, which then allowed the government to start backing loans? Oh, it could be that. See, it could be, in theory, it could be the 1965 Higher Education Act, which was put out there and then all of a sudden made it to where the government now was vested in making money off of students in college by a percentage. So therefore, when you have a higher tuition with a percentage, you make more money. So it made it the government can make more cash and banks can make more cash if you raise tuition. So it could be that, or maybe because they don't want you to protest. It could be because the government was backing loans. So if the kids didn't pay because they're getting a garbage education like this, the government would pay. It could be that. Just maybe. Could be. Or it could be protest. This guy doesn't mention that at that point, which was the 70s, is when the government started backing all the loans. He doesn't bring it up at all. That wasn't it. It was to stop you from protesting because they hate it. This is a college professor, a popular one.
This was deliberate. It was on purpose. The goal was to get you so that you wouldn't do another 60s.
See, because they hated the 60s. You know, they.
Donald Reagan, who was in the Ronald Reagan administration.
Which was 1980 and on. So that's not 73, but okay.
At a cabinet position in 1983, invited top business people, the CEOs, to a conference where he actually encouraged them to take the businesses out of the United States to move manufacturing overseas.
Okay, so he encouraged businesses to move outside of America. Okay, maybe that happened. Okay, well, why would he do that? To move out of America? I don't know. Maybe because he thinks it's cheaper. He wants to keep manufacturing in American companies. I don't know. Why would he do that? Tell me, oh wise one. I'm sure this will make complete and utter sense. I'm sure this will make total sense.
And the idea is that if you took enough manufacturing out of the United States, and you got rid of those jobs, you could then come in and break the unions.
Of course, makes total sense. I will destroy the American economy so I can break the unions. That's the reason. I will destroy the economy so I can break the unions. This is Ronald Reagan, who attacked, who just said, go back to work or I'll arrest you. Why would he need this? What? That's the reason. You were wondering. You were saying to yourself, I bet these businesses moved overseas so they could save money. No. Why are you guys so dumb? Why'd you think that? No, it's because they hate unions. That's the reason. And they went, this'll teach them. We'll leave. The unions will break. Then we'll come back and there'll be no more unions. Wait a minute. Did they come back? No. The union's gone? No. That didn't work that well. Yeah. And he's like, yeah. Could you imagine him on a debate stage? Oh my God.
Once the jobs were gone, the unions would be gone.
Well, he's not wrong. I mean, that is true. If the jobs were gone, the unions would be gone. That is an accurate statement. I guess in that regard, you know what? He's made some sense today. There we go.
And one of the reasons why the Reagan administration was so keen to break the unions was to make it so that you could pay workers less money.
Oh, you could pay workers less money. That's the reason. Huh. It's not because all of a sudden women join the workforce? It's not that at all. He doesn't mention anything that happened in 1971, 72, 73. So let me quickly give you a couple things, because these are things that he just doesn't want to tell you about. See, he's saying that it's all because government bad. And I'm sorry, they are bad and they want to do that. That's why. But let me show a little bit of something real fast, if you don't mind. Here is, see if I can find it here. If I can find it on here, maybe I can. I'm not sure if I can. I have to find a chunk of it. All righty. This is what someone actually calls on Wikipedia. So you can take that for whatever you want. But this is it's a good overview. This is what's called the Nixon shock. Nixon, 1971. What does he do? He freezes prices. What could go wrong? Freezes wages. What could go wrong? Government steps in. He freezes prices. He freezes wages. And there are idiot people who actually say, I've seen this more than once, that's how you fix things. Just stop, freeze prices, freeze wages. But homeboy just said stuff got bad after 1973. He's right. Why? Government stepped in. Did that? Yeah. But not just that. He also made sure that he ended the Bretton Woods. He ended it. So the dollar was no longer worth $1 anymore. Yeah. Weird how when you make the dollar not worth anything, all of a sudden the dollar's not worth anything. Yeah, I'm going to give you a picture of something which I think you may enjoy. Some of you have seen this kind of picture before. Some of you haven't. But let me show you this picture. I think you may enjoy this picture if I can. Let me see if I can get it right. Okay, here's a good picture. I think you may enjoy this picture. This is a picture of dollars before and after. I don't know if you can see it. But up here it says silver certificate, $1 silver. This is from 1957. Down here it says Federal Reserve note, $1. This is from the 70s. Yeah. And as the guy's joking, he goes, here, backed up by dollar. And this guy says, trust me. I'll vote dollars now, or trust me. Who did that? Nixon, 1971. Does he mention that? No. Clearly not important. Clearly not important. Doesn't matter. Not important. Vietnam War. So much debt from the Vietnam War. Doesn't mention that at all. Doesn't mention that at all. Price freezes, wage freezes, doesn't mention that at all. Ended the dollar. It's the 91%, you knuckleheads. World War II, where 50% of all of manufacturing on the planet, and we have a labor shortage. Yeah, so of course you got high-paying jobs. You have a labor shortage. Not just that, you have a bunch of combat veterans. Literally millions of them back in the country. You don't give them jobs? You guys heard of Athens, Georgia? Some of you know what I'm talking about. You take those men who came back from World War II, combat veterans, and say, I'm not giving you nothing. They're going to take something. They're going to take something. That's why you do that. But he won't tell you that. It's because 91%, guys. It's about the 91%. That's what made things good. Everything else, that's for you idiots. Now, he doesn't mention any of this. And this guy, believe it or not, it talks about history, in theory at least. So, yeah.
The reason we had gotten there is because of
Tell me why.
What triggered Piketty's 25 years of prosperity.
Okay, what triggered from 1948 to 1973? What triggered that? Now, I would say it's the end of World War II, right? And then I would also say it is that we have 50% of world manufacturing and the reserve currency. That's me. But what's he going to say? Let's see.
So in the 40s,
yeah, what happened
in the aftermath of World War II, we were cash flush.
Huh, I wonder why. Huh. We were cash flush. Why would that? Because we found some money. Okay,
we had an economy like nobody else in the world had. We could do things. We could imagine things.
Yeah,
we could imagine such amazing things. We could imagine, for example, putting people on the moon.
Okay, we didn't imagine people on the moon in the 1940s. He's making that up. Not just that. We also did something before that. We built the Empire State Building. We built the Empire State Building in less than a year. 1929, 1930, something like that. About a year, we built the Empire State Building. That's what we did. So we were imagining things 10 years before this. He just made this up. What he doesn't want to say is we had a bunch of money from winning World War II.
This was the time period when there was no bound to our imagination. Decision was made. A decision was made
by them. Decision was just made by the bad people, because you know those bad people, them.
It's to dump a lot of money into the United States. Really, the decision had been made in the 30s, but it accelerated in the 40s and the 50s.
They just
to build infrastructure, to advance the United States technology.
Yes, it was like the Empire State Building. True. And guess how much government money went into the Empire State Building? You're going to wonder, how much money went to the Empire State Building? That would be, nothing. The Empire State Building was built with all private funds. Yes. But we can't build things without government. Somehow we did.
Logically, to dump a bunch of money into research.
Okay.
But also a decision.
Okay. Yes. But we were doing that a long time ago.
Was made to grow and make the middle class really, really, really big.
So what he just says is the decision was made by them. I don't know who them is, but all the kids are like, yeah, them. They're all buying this garbage. The decision was made back in the 30s and the 40s. I guess this evil cabal of people who just make decisions. They made the decision. And we're going to grow the middle class really, really big. They said that. This guy's actually saying this garbage. He doesn't realize how dumb he sounds. But they did. Okay. Why did they want to build it really, really big? What was their logic? He's going to give us something savvy, I'm sure.
Now, this wasn't because we were like, oh, Aristotle said you should have a big middle class. I doubt we read Aristotle.
You doubt we read Aristotle? Who's we? He wasn't in charge. And the people in the 30s and 40s actually did read Aristotle. No one in that classroom has. Let's be clear. No one in that classroom has. This guy probably didn't, but no one in the classroom has. They actually did read Aristotle.
You know what I mean? I mean, there was 10 people maybe who had.
Only 10 people read Aristotle. This dude loved making stuff up. Just make stuff up. 10 people who, okay, I like it. Tell me some more stories.
It was actually a mathematical calculation. It was actually an economics thing.
Calculation.
Here's the thinking. It's going to sound crazy. Tax the hell out of the rich.
That was their idea.
Eisenhower did. He took the tax rate for the top tax bracket to 92.
Okay, so his thing is, prior to that, he said, they weren't taxing the rich. Then this is what he said. Now I'm telling you what he said. He said then the 10 people who read Aristotle, whatever it was, those people, the decision was made that they are then gonna make a big middle class. And to do that, the plan to make a big middle class, that's the plan, is to tax the rich by 91%. And the business people went to Eisenhower and said, hey, Eisenhower, we're business people. You know what we need? Because we didn't read Aristotle. We need you to make the middle class really, really big. So could you tax us 91%? That's what he just said. Because you have to tax the hell out of us, because that's how you make a middle class. That's what he just said. You can rewind if you think I'm crazy. That's what he just said.
Percent. Eisenhower was a conservative Republican who was backed by businessmen.
Okay.
Who approved of the 92%.
Okay. The guy who he says is backed by businessmen, who he said that, is the guy who gave the speech on the military-industrial complex, literally American businessmen, and said how bad they were. That's that guy.
Actually, they whined. They said it was too high. And so in his second term, he lowered it to 91%. Give everybody a little bit of a break. And that's when our economy was booming.
See?
That's that 25-year span.
That's what it was. It was the tax rate that did it, guys. Even though he said 48 and this was in the 50s, but that doesn't matter. Even though World War II has happened, that doesn't matter. I guess I must show you real fast. That's what he said. I'm just saying what he said. He said that. Here is actual income tax rates. The actual income tax rates. I'm going to show you them. So again, I bring receipts. You know I do. I bring receipts. Actual income tax rates. If you can, I hope you can. And here you can see in the 1941, 1942, 88%, 1944, 91%. It was already that high. It was already that high. The story he just told you is a lie. There it is. You think I'm making this up? Check it yourself. You can find it. Already that high. And it was high before. It was 73% right after World War II or after World War I. Yeah. And they lowered it. Why? Because the depression was coming. So they lowered it. Why would they lower it? To get out of depression. Yeah, went down 25%. Yeah. So why would these rich people decide it was okay? I guess they backed it somehow. First off, he just lied. It's just not true. It is inaccurate what he just said. It was higher before. It was higher in 1944 during World War II. It was higher. Yes. Why would they do that? Why would they accept that as true? Why would they do that? Oh my God. Because they love, no. Because in reality, the actual tax they were paying was less. Yes. Was actually less. They were only paying about 30% in taxes. Why? Why would they agree to this? Now, if you're savvy, you've already figured this out. You make a very expensive high tax rate so you can make a whole bunch of loopholes. Now, why would you want loopholes? Why would business want loopholes? To set precedent. What? Yes, that is how you have corporate capture. That is how lobbyists work. Lobbyists work based upon a tax code. So you have to have a big, heavy tax code. Why? So you can have lobbyists. So you can control government. So you can control these guys. So you can give them money and get them to vote the way you want them to vote. Do you really think, any of you think, that the top people in the country went, can you please tax us 91%? You'd have to be insanely naive to think that was the case. They made a very detailed case because they wanted to make sure they could use lobbyists to control the government, which worked perfectly. That's how you get a military-industrial complex. The 91% thing is what made the military-industrial complex, because now they began to control the government completely, utterly, completely. They control every person. Yes, of course. Because they're altruistic? No. It isn't about the money in this case. It's about the control. That's how it actually works. But of course, this guy doesn't get that. He doesn't get that. Dave says, in World War II, the top rate was around 96%. Also, very few states had income tax. Also true. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. But I just showed you the actual details of it. I just showed it to you, right? It's already there, right? So let me show you. This is really quick. This is from Google, a simple check from Google, which talks about the wealth gap. If you look at the wealth gap went up when he said it was going down. It went up. Then it was stable. He says it went down. That's not what Google says. Google says it was stable. Then Google says, and maybe Google's wrong, it's possible, you can show me, that it started getting worse in the 70s. What happened in the 70s? Oh, I already told you that. We made our money utter garbage. Nixon. We put in price controls and we put in wage controls, and the economy suffered. Where had that happened? Well, once you put in price controls and wage controls, which Nixon put in, do you think that then businesses might say, hey, you know what? Maybe I want to take my people overseas, my business overseas. Why? So I don't have price controls and wage controls. Could that be a reason why that happened? Because I don't trust my own government? I don't control them enough. I need to control them even more? Could be. Could be. But does this guy mention any of that? No, he mentions none of it. He just says 91% is how you make a middle class. How you make a middle class is when you have valuable labor. And from 1948 to 1973, we had very valuable labor, right? And more solid
that's
money.
8 years right in the middle of that. And the reason why our economy did so well.
Okay, here we go. The reason why the economy did so well, he's going to tell us now. This guy is brilliant. He's a professor. Phil, stop. He's a professor, okay? Listen up. Learn something. Stop typing and start learning something. Learn what this man's telling you.
It was like this. So you're rich, you're paying big taxes. The big taxes build things like the Eisenhower interstate system, new airports, and it expands the ports, builds infrastructure for industry.
So it builds the ports and stuff. That's what all your taxes does. See? Like the World Trade Center, like the Port Authority, all those things. It builds all those things. Oh, wait, no, it didn't. That was all done by bonds. Huh. That was all done by bonds, homeboy. Look it up. Think I'm making it up? Look it up. Done by bonds. Not a thing. World Trade Center, by bonds. Not a thing.
Industry.
Not taxes.
We hire a bunch of new people, a bunch of GIs coming out of World War II. Yeah. Those guys, by the way, are not only being able to go to college for free, but we've also set up these new loan systems so they can buy homes. So there's this big building boom with all this new money that's being injected into the economy, ending up in the hands of.
The money's not being injected into the economy. We're making tons of money because we're over 50% of global manufacturing. Right? And we're the reserve currency. So all trade is in dollars. It's kind of not because we randomly he has no answer. He's just like, well, decisions were made and money was put in. Why do you think these kids come out going, we could just make jobs? Because he believes in magic. I wish I was joking. This is a professor, and it's not Hogwarts. And this guy believes in magic. Decisions were made and money was put in. His words, not mine.
These soldiers coming home from World War II, that big building boom added to the infrastructure meant there were a bunch of middle-class jobs that paid really well.
Yes. Why would those jobs pay well? Okay, here it is. It's because those same business owners, they love giving their money away. They hate money. That's why they're business owners. And they said, hey, first, can we give you 91% of our money? Number one, beg them to do it. Then, can we just pay these guys lots of money? That's what happened. That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying.
People with those middle-class jobs then could go to the store and buy stuff.
I like that
made
idea.
In the factories that they were working in.
Like that idea too. And who started that? Oh, that was Henry Ford way before World War II, wasn't it? Literally what he said. Literally what he did. Literally the guy who made the work week was Henry Ford, not the government, decades before. Decades before Henry Ford did that. Does he talk about Henry Ford? I don't think he did. But Henry Ford did that. Not Eisenhower. Eisenhower didn't do that. That was Henry Ford. Oh, that's weird. He didn't mention Henry Ford, did he? He didn't mention that. No, he didn't. And he's also not mentioning the most important piece. Why did you have good jobs? One more time. I have to keep saying this. We were over 50% of global manufacturing, and we didn't have enough people to come into the labor force. Why do you think we try to keep the women in the labor force? Why do you think that began to happen? Why do you think it was like giving women and people equal rights? Why do you think in the 60s we went nuts bringing in immigrants? Why? Because we were bored? No, we had a labor shortage. Now, if you now make and the reality of it was businesses were tired of a labor shortage. They're like, that sucks. I'm a labor shortage. So because now I got to pay high wages. I want to pay lower wages if I'm a business, of course, not because I love you, because that's how it works. So what can I do? Well, if I'm a good business owner, I know how the market works. If I flood the market with labor, I can then charge less. Huh. That's weird. What happened in the 70s that would have made that true? Well, let me give you some. So again, he will not mention this because that doesn't fit his narrative. And this guy's an utter propagandist. So he would not tell you. But let me give you a little bit of something you might enjoy. This is, if I can find it, this is labor force participation starting around 1973, the time that he said so, right? He was so worried. And you know what this is? Mothers in the workforce. Mothers in the workforce. So we went, let's throw all these moms in the workforce And look at all the women, mommies going back into the workforce. What does that do? Floods the workforce. What can you do now? Lower wages. It had nothing to do with the 91%. And that started in the 70s. In fact, you see here, it's like 1973, all the way up. Huh? Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Yes, and of course, Mr. I guess 1023, I'll call you that. Didn't Eisenhower deport most people ever? Yes. Why would you deport those people? To get rid of the labor force so you can keep, so they keep the wages higher. That's what he did. He deported them and the wages went up. And people are like, why are you doing this? This is Mr. Eisenhower who supposedly loves businesses. No, he hurt businesses with this. He hurts businesses with this. This guy doesn't bring any of this up. He doesn't bring any deportation up. This is women coming into the workforce. Right here. I'm showing it to you. Does he mention that? No. Not just that. You know what also happened in 1974? Women got to have their own credit. They can go out and work, do their own thing, have credit, buy a house on their own. Yeah. Creating more households. Yes. Which means more taxes. Which means more debt. Which means more money. Which means inflation. Yeah. So I throw women into the workforce. I give them credit. So more flooding into the workforce. Yes. I destroy the US dollar by making it worth nothing. Trust me, bro. That becomes the backing now. Trust me, bro. I got debt from the Vietnam War. There's no tomorrow. I now have the federal government paying and backing all the loans and making money off the loans. So of course we raise tuition because I make more money that way. So of course it's by a percentage. So the higher the dollars, the more percentage I get, the bigger my cut. So I keep doing that. Didn't mention any of that. Nothing. Didn't mention any of that at all. Yeah, none of that stuff. But it's 91%. And the rich people were begging for it because, as he says, decisions were made by them. This is a college professor who says decisions were made by them. You literally learn more on my podcast than you learn from this guy. Yes, I wish I was joking, but I'm not.
And then that money would end up in the industries and the businesses, and then those businesses would pay the heavy taxes to create new infrastructure, to expand the economy, to create more really good jobs, right?
Wait a minute, but if that's the case, then wouldn't you want to lower taxes then? What he just said was an argument to lower taxes. See? He can't help but telling himself. See, because then if I spend that money, then they use the money to make new jobs, right? What he just said?
This feedback loop, and the thinking was you could just keep growing the economy. All you had to do was hammer the rich.
So did you hear what he just said? You could keep growing the economy. All you had to do was hammer the rich. This is why so many youngsters think socialism and tax is the answer, because idiots like him, idiots. I don't know if he's that stupid. Probably he's an ideologue. I mean, he might be dumb, but the odds are he's not dumb. The odds are he's just a brainwashed ideologue. And now he's brainwashing these kids. Why do you think I keep saying stop going to college? Right here. Exhibit A. I have many exhibits. Exhibit A. You can grow the economy by hammering the rich. Let's assume he's right for a moment. Okay. Do we have any evidence of this? Any evidence of this? Well, let me ask. Let's look right now in America. Right now in America. We can make everything great, grow the economy, all the good stuff. We just hammer the rich. Well, are there any states right now who are hammering the rich? Yes, there are. 3 of them that are really doing it badly, but many of them, but 3 badly. New York, California, Connecticut. Top 5 in heavy taxes. Top 5 in hammering the rich. What do we have in those 3 states? People leaving, high debt, and by the way, the worst wealth gap. He said 91% taxes, so high taxes, hammer them. That's what he said. And you grow the economy. And in his words, everyone is better off. If that's the case, why did New York State lose 100,000 people, even though we gained 200,000 migrants? So we lost a total of 300,000 people. Why? Because we're so better off? That's the reason why. Doesn't make much sense, does it? Why did the IRS say New York State lost $20 billion in revenue due to migration. Again, the IRS says that, not me. The IRS says in 1 year, New York State lost $20 billion in income due to migration, meaning people leaving the state. That's weird. Why do independent people, independent organizations say New York State has the worst wealth gap, the worst wealth inequality in the entire nation, and we're the most taxed? Everything he's saying seems to be bullshit. You know why it looks like it's bullshit? I'm gonna tell you why. Because it is bullshit. That's the reason why. He has no evidence what he said. I'm giving you receipts. I'm giving you examples. I'm telling you truth. He is going, decisions were made and money was put in, and they figured it out. I don't know who they is or where the money comes from or who made decisions. He just says that, and these guys go, yeah, can I have my degree now? How much do I owe you? $100,000? I guess that's good. Horrible. Everything he's saying is not true. Everything he's inferring in is not true. How about that?
Now, the rich went along with it, and it worked.
The rich went along with it. Like, yeah, this is great. 91%. That's not true. Okay. Okay. I got something else I want to show you if I could. All right. This is how much people actually paid. All right. Here's what people actually paid. And again, do your own homework. You think I'm making this up? Do your own homework. But I'm showing you the stuff here, right? Actually, the tax rate in the 1950s, if you can see right here, officially was 91%. How much did they actually pay? They actually paid around 26%, about 42%, which is what we pay now. We would pay now in theory. In theory, we pay that now, but in reality, we pay about 26%. If you're top 1%, this is you pay. But more importantly, back then, all of them combined, didn't actually only pay about 30% of the total taxes. Now they pay over 50%. Yeah. The number of people, there were about 10,000 households then, 1.4 million households then, now, and only about double the population. Yeah. Big difference. Huge increase. So I gave you some stuff that's real. You cannot believe me if you don't want to. Look it up if you want to, but that's what's actually happening. He mentions none of that. Because why would he? It doesn't fit his narrative. And that's all he's concerned about, is fitting his narrative. And it doesn't. So it must be bad. And he doesn't have to have any details at all because he's a professor and you can't say anything, otherwise he'll fail you. So you nod your head and go, yes, professor, you're super smart.
It worked. The quality of jobs was so high.
Yeah. And it was because of that 91%. Note, I gave you 7 other things that affected this. 7 other things. But the quality was from that 48. Here's the best part. From 40, he says 40 to 73. Yet the stuff he says is bad happened in the 80s. What happened to the 7 years in between? Doesn't say a word. Doesn't mention the war on drugs, the war on poverty, which destroyed the black family, right? Doesn't mention that at all. The war on poverty, which made people poorer, doesn't mention that at all. Civil Rights Act doesn't mention any of that stuff. None of that mentions none of that stuff. None of that stuff doesn't mention Vietnam War. None of that mentions none of that, right? But he says it started in 48. Yet the tax hikes started in 51. That he said that started in 51. But in reality, we saw it started in the 40s. So he lied about that too. Nothing he says makes any sense. Now he's saying, but wait a minute, they have these great jobs. Yes, one more time for the people, the kids in the back who didn't hear it. We were 50% of the world's manufacturing. 50% of the world's manufacturing with a labor shortage. Doesn't mention that at all. Shelley says, doesn't mention any of the unions that stole retirement funds in the 70s. Doesn't mention that either. Yes. Here in New York City, I remember that completely. Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Between the amount of regulation on those jobs, the benefits, the job.
Okay, why do we have benefits on those jobs? Because the other terrible president, known as Franklin Delano Roosevelt, decided that he wanted to put in wage freezes because those always work. And again, if you ask socialists, they believe that. Those always work. So yeah, they did that. Of course they did. So since they did that, how could you get these people to come on board? By giving them benefits, because you couldn't raise their salary because it was against the law. Because it was against the law. Yeah, they had great benefits. Because the rich people want to just give benefits away? No, because they had no choice.
Job safety in those jobs, that meat packing industry. Right? When you think of jobs, probably most of you here aren't thinking, I'm going to take my college degree and I'm going to become manager at a slaughtering plant and get into the meat packing industry. Probably most of you aren't aiming in that direction.
He teases that. And the sad part is, meat packing, there's tons of money in it today. Slaughtering animals, I'm not saying you should or don't want to. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, as he looks down upon those jobs, if you want to work in a slaughterhouse, you can be in areas that are not wealthy, right? Your slaughterhouses aren't in New York City, right? And you'll make $25 to $35 an hour. $35 an hour in rural America is a living wage. It's a good wage, right? You live in New York City, you're surviving barely with the roommate in your studio apartment. But if you live in rural America, which is where most of these facilities are, $35 an hour, you're good. You're good. You're good. And he's looking down on that. Half of these people in this room are going to be baristas. I wish I was joking. I'm not. I don't know how old this is. Some of these guys probably already served me coffee because I'm in New York. Came to New York thinking, I'm going to be a teacher. And you're going to, no, you're not. Starbucks is over there.
But you could leave with a high school diploma and go apply for a meat packing job. And it was a 1-year wait list to get an interview.
So it's fine. He just made that up. That's not a thing. There weren't 1 year, yeah. Kim says $25, $35 an hour is not a good wage anywhere. That's not true. There's parts of this country, Kim, that if you make that, that's a good wage. Absolutely. They absolutely are. If you're in an area where you can buy a house for $50,000 to $100,000, and there are places in America where you can, and that's where most of these meat packing places are. They're in very rural areas. You can buy a house for $100,000, right? Yes, $35 an hour. That's a good wage. I mean, look, you're not rich, but you're not starving. You're not starving with that. That's a living wage in certain parts of the country. No cities. They're not one city, but there are certain parts of the country where you can. Yes. It depends where you live. That's the issue. It depends where you live.
For that job. Right?
See, Phil says it.
Even
not bad
jobs that you would think were low-end jobs, the undesirable jobs, had become such good jobs. They had such good pay power.
They still are. That hasn't gone away. If you have a job that people don't want to do, that means there is a labor shortage and the price goes up.
Packages, such good benefits packages, that there was a 1-year wait just to get an interview.
Yeah, he made that up. None of that's true.
If you were to go back. He
just made that up. That's where that ended, by the way. So I hope that was interesting for you guys to see how bad that was. And that some of you may be thinking, why do these kids believe this stuff? That's why. Yes. I mean, that is why. Hold on. Let me see if I can find something real fast. Yeah, so I can find something real fast. I'm gonna look for something here. All righty. According to MIT, I'm gonna say, well, this is according to MIT. A living wage average in America is $22 per hour. That is what a living wage average, according to Google, is across the country. That is not the case in cities. Be very clear. Cities, that is not. But if you're making 20, 30, Andrea says it here. Andrea says it right here. $20 in Springfield, decent wage. Exactly. There we go. Dave says here it's 15 hours, $17.50 here. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, it's a decent wage, Kim. I'm not saying the person is wealthy. I'm saying it's a decent wage. That's all I'm saying. And so you can still get that. It depends on where you live. Again, depends on where you live. That's all I'm saying. So it depends on where you live. So anyway, I do want to grab a bunch of these comments. I want to walk down these roads if I could. I hope I showed you enough interesting stuff to make sure that was, I hope so. So John says, this class should be called Economic Fantasy 101. I want to hear this guy talk about broke. Yeah, it is. Literally, this is, his words were literally, decisions were made. Money was put in. How? He believes in magic, right? And he just says it. He probably believes in magical monetary theory, whatever that thing is, the magical money tree. Probably believes in that too. So yes. Vivek says, I think reacting to opposing views should be good. You are respectful and thoughtful debater. Yeah, but I did insult him a couple times. But yeah, if he was to debate me, I probably wouldn't have insulted him as much if he's debating me. I might have. Depends. So yes. Michael says 91% tax rate worked when 90% of the goods were manufactured in the USA. That was part of my point. But the other piece, remember, is they weren't paying 91%. If you make a detailed, confusing tax code, the average person goes, I don't get it. I'm in trouble. I'm worried. I don't understand it. You go, don't worry. We're taxing the rich 91%. Oh, you're getting them rich people 91%? Good. I'm okay with this tax code. That's what people think. The reality is, Michael, is the tax code detailed for them. They get around it. They're actually paying less. If you ever seen the movie, I think it was a 1990s movie. It was 1990s. And it had Tom Cruise in it. It was called The Firm. If any of you saw the movie, it's called The Firm. In the movie The Firm, Tom Cruise plays a new lawyer coming in, and the wealthy people all have this firm, and they all use the firm to pay 7% tax. 7%. Yes. They pay the firm to pay 7% tax. So yeah, that's actually a thing. So now that obviously a movie, an exaggeration, but the concept is exactly the same. The concept's the same, even though that's a movie, actually. So yes. All right. Matt, thank you for being a member, my friend. Just dropped $600 at the vet today. Damn. Okay. To find out my cat has diabetes and needs to be on cat Zempic the rest of his life. What? Where's Medicare for all cats at? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man. That sucks. You know, people don't always realize it. If you don't have a pet, you don't realize how much pets are part of the family, right? If you don't have one, you probably don't really know. But if you have a pet, you get it. Like, part of the family. I've never had a cat. I'm allergic to cats. So I've had many dogs. So yeah, absolutely. Joel says, did someone mention our tax code? We need to fair tax. Research, fair tax. I like that idea. Yes. Michael says, taxing 100% of the wealth of the top 10 rich people might pay our interest on our national debt. Probably not. But yeah, the point is, look, this is how it actually works, which is why you don't hear me talking about punishing the rich. You see me talk about raising up the poor, because you can't really punish the rich. Every time you try, they will get around it. Why? They're savvy. They have wealth. They have resources. They control the government. It doesn't work. But they want to keep us down. No, that's propaganda. The wealthy don't want to keep anybody else down. They don't care. There's a difference between being evil and being apathetic. They're apathetic. They don't care if we're rich. They don't care if you're rich, he's rich. They don't care as long as they're rich. They don't care who else is rich as long as they're rich. That's all they care about. Me and my family taken care of. You're rich, good. You're not rich, good. They don't really care either way, right? That's the hope. That's the piece. So if we could raise other people up, now we're winning. If we try to attack them, what do? They build higher walls. They make things hard to deal with. They take more of our stuff. The wealth gap increases, and then they leave. They're the ones who found ways to make no taxes in the Cayman Islands or wherever they go to, Turks and Caicos or wherever they go to have to pay no taxes. Of course. Not just that, there are more people renouncing U.S. citizenship these last couple of years than ever before. Last year was a all-time record of people renouncing U.S. citizenship. Why? Because the U.S. taxes you no matter where you are in the world. Not all countries do that. Most countries don't do that, right? So if I'm a citizen of Germany, but I live in America, and I live and work in America, the Germans don't tax me because I'm not living and working in Germany. But if I'm American and I live in Germany, America still taxes me because you're American, pay your taxes, goddammit. But I live and work in Germany. Don't matter, pay taxes. America does that. So a lot of rich people are like, I don't want to do that anymore. They're leaving. Now, the more we begin to hate the rich and don't like them, which is fine, they leave. They're paying 40% of our taxes now. We lost $20 billion just in New York State. You can keep throwing rich people out. You can if you want to, make you feel good, but then who's going to pay the taxes? You are. Someone's going to pay him. The rich leave. Who's going to pay him? You are. Or you get less services. You get that death spiral. Larry, death spiral. Look at Detroit. Detroit is the perfect example of that. We'll just keep taxing people, and you get Detroit. Greg, thanks for being a member, my friend. So were the people with the lower wealth unhappy? What if they were farmers with a simple life and were happy? Is a large wealth gap necessarily bad? It's a very valid point. I'm not actually sure. I don't know if they had a happiness index back then. I don't know. I think in general, people were happier. But again, a lot of them were happy because we judged ourselves by our peer group. And if we didn't see the super wealthy often, it wasn't a big deal. Now we see them all the time. So yeah. Michael says, Elon paid the highest ever single taxpayer income tax bill in like 2023 at near $14 billion. Let's throw him out of the country and lose $14 billion because Elon bad. There we go. So yeah. All right. Lunatic in the house, my friend. Academia is fine. Yes. Again, this guy is being paid big dollars to not even give a single specific issue on why things work, to not talk about the most critical issues I brought up. Now, not one thing I brought up was the answer, but all of them combined, yes. Literally the answer, yes. Phil says they were trying to make things more equal, except for VA loans and the GI Bill, which are only for white veterans. Correct? Now he's saying it's because there was a 91% income tax. But I told you earlier there was too. It was higher than that. During World War II, it was higher, 94%. It was higher. So he just made that up. But it's like, well, because of that, that's why this thing happens. And then he says this one period of time, what he says, this one period of time between 1948 and 1973 was the only time, he said it, in humanity, the history of humanity, his words, he said that, where you could just work and get ahead. So no other country has that. And we don't have that now. Didn't have it before. So before that and after that, everything was luck. That's how socialists think. That's how he thinks. That's why he said that. He wasn't joking. And his answer is, it's because 91%. Well, okay, with that logic, I'm going to copy his logic. See, you know what also wasn't happening during that time? Women couldn't have credit cards. That's true. They didn't get credit cards in 1974. 73, 74? Where is it? The National Credit Something Act. I think it's 74. Anyway, 74. I think 74. Anyway, so see what wrecked it all was women getting credit cards. See? The same logic. Neither of those two things are related at all. That's not the reason why things got worse. Well, probably for some women who didn't hold credit, probably for some women who got new credit cards, probably for a couple of them it got worse. But for America, So, yes. And you might go, well, during that time period, it was 91%. Yeah, during that time period, there was segregation and there was lynchings. So I guess that was good too. Women couldn't have credit cards and there was lynchings. That's how you build a big middle class. Is that how, Phil? I don't think so. I don't think so. Yes. Joel says, lol, Larry has a Rumble show, no F-bombs. Oh, yeah, back to you. Yeah, you're right. I got to watch out. Sometimes these guys just drive me crazy because people give them so much respect that makes no sense. Joe goes on to say, Bernie Sanders tried to get everyone to a 32-hour work week with 40 hours pay. Bernie doesn't run any businesses. You could do that. You could do that. You just get less pay per hour. You could do that. Yeah. And then they'll hire 2 people at part-time. Yeah. So yeah. When was the dollar taking off gold? Yeah. 1970. Yeah. 1. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Phil says it was literally happening through most of American history. The progressive movement came about because old money aristocrats were complaining about ethnics getting rich. They were a little unhappy because they were coming into their areas. Yes, absolutely. 100%. They were coming into their areas. Very true. Rick says, here late, smack the like button. Yes, guys, if you have to click the like button, please do so. And if you enjoyed this, please let me know that you enjoyed this, right? I did this because people asked me to do it. Someone sent me this video, and it happened to be on this. But again, you can send me a video for any type. I don't care what it is. Again, why cats are cool. Whatever, I don't care. Whatever it is fine. I'm happy to do it. If you have not reposted this, please repost it. It does matter. If you can subscribe, please follow, as I always ask you to. Please, if you also would, if you want to become a member, please do so. $49 per month. Click the join button. Also good. If you want to get your chat to the front, you can either super chat me or rant me on Rumble. Let me grab, if I could, a couple of another ones if I can over on Instagram. G Salamander says, no one ever mentioned that the post-World War II economy was artificial, and the economic boom in the U.S. had a lot to do with most other first world nations being decimated. They weren't able to produce and export. Correct. As I mentioned, that piece is a critical piece. Thank you over on Instagram. That is absolutely correct, right? And they were importing goods from the U.S., but it could never last. And yes, after a generation, 23 years or so, it began to fall. Yes. He goes on to say, yes, Nixon abandoning the gold standard led to a great economic instability. Also correct. He brings up none of that, though. None of it. He then goes on to say, typical commie college professor. This is why so many people are avoiding higher education. Is full of propagandist jerk-offs. Accurate statement. That's why I get so angry. People are listening to him like he's smart or savvy, and he is neither of those. So, yes, he is neither of those. So, all righty. That was a couple from there. Let me grab some from Rumble if I could. Straight Ann says, I'm glad I hit the like button and don't have to pay 91%. Yeah. I'd pay $300 for tuition now if the government wasn't subsidizing the loans. That's the issue. And he doesn't bring that up. In 1965, the government started subsidizing loans. Well, everybody makes money on a cut. So you got to have a higher percentage so that your cut becomes bigger. So let's keep raising prices. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Shorten goes on to saying the environment moved overseas. Yes. And it wasn't because we'll break the unions. I mean, he just made that. He just literally made that up. Decisions were made. Can you imagine someone who calls themselves intellectual? Imagine if I was sitting here and I sit here until I tell you I'm all smart and everything. I'm so smart, look how smart I am. And then you say, well, Larry, who did it? You know, people. What do you mean people? Yeah. Decisions were made. By who? By them. Who's them? You know, people. And then money was put in. From where? You know, money. How? It was put in. How? By them. That's what he did. That's what he did. And then the rich businessmen said, please tax us lots, and let's make a big middle class. And we knew hammering us because, you know, when I think about businessmen, first thing I think of is altruistic people who want to be punished. Well, they do want to be punished, but who just please, I want to make a big middle class. They don't care about that. They'll do it. They'll do it if they have to. They will. Yeah. Anyway. All righty. Phil says Garrett grants spreading their wealth without socialism. Correct. Voluntary exchange. It doesn't get better than that. Yes. Doesn't get better. Yes. Absolutely. 100%. All righty. Let's see here. Dark Clouds of the Mind says, is that free membership just for the first month? It's first month. Yes. If you want to stay on, you can. So if I were you, Dark Closet of the Mind, I would become a member and then immediately send me some videos. This way, if you don't want to be a member anymore, you can stop. But if you do want to stay on because it's fun, and you should do so, then pay the $49 per month. See? There we go. Andrea is silly. Andrea thought, look how silly she is. She actually thought that colleges would raise the tuition because of overhead and profit. No. It's because they don't want you being an activist. Of course. What are the reasons could there be? You know how there's no more activists on colleges anymore? Oh, wait. Yeah. He said that. I can't believe he said that. And with a straight face. And the next part is he acts as though that's the issue. I'm going to give you a list since like 80 or so of all of the super successful college protests that worked. I am done. They don't work. So why would I care? If I'm them, I don't care about college protests. If need be, I get the Trump administration to throw you out of the country. See? Easy day. I don't have to worry about that. I don't care. Done deal. Yes. Phil says, there's a dangerous myth about World War II getting us out of Great Depression. The poverty persisted for decades around the world. Correct. Yeah, it's true. Yes. Absolutely. Let's see here. Kim says Rumble show was great, but Rumble isn't quite as user friendly as YouTube. No comments after the live show. That's like, yeah, it isn't as good. It isn't. The UI in Rumble isn't good, but they tend to just be nicer than YouTube. Makes me. I'm always worried when I drop an F-bomb. I'm like worried. If I say something, I'm like worried. Like, are they going to cancel me? Are they going to demonetize me? I'm always worried about that stuff. So yeah, but the UI is better on the user interface. Sorry, the user interface is better on YouTube. That's true. Yes, absolutely. Grace says, what the hell is a protest force? He made that up. He made a lot of stuff up. That's another thing. Like, it's a protest force. Yes. Yeah. And Mike goes on. So this guy thinks the purpose of college is to protest? Yes, he does, Mike. And you know he thinks that. He does think that. He's like, yes, you're here to become my socialist protesters. Yes. He says that is inherent in his logic. Correct. Yes, absolutely. Dave says the federal government started bankrolling tuition back when states paid the tuition. Only the best students went to college. The worst students went to Vietnam. Wow. Wow. But yeah. So anyway, yeah. Kim's like, true. There we go. Yes. Kayjon, how are you? Thanks for being a member. Says, allow me to quote my fave line from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Still resonating all these years. I weep for the future. Shake my head. I know. It's kind of tough. Yeah. It's kind of tough. It's yeah. So, alrighty. Grace says, who is going to farm the food and unplug the drains and fix the cars and set the gas if everyone's protesting? Them. Come on, Grace. Protesting is what matters. The government will, because money will be put in, because decisions will be made. That's what he said, right? Don't you get how things work? This guy literally believes in magic. So they will farm the food, unplug the drains, fix the car, set the gas, because money will be injected into the system, and decisions will be made. Just get with the program, Grace, okay? Get with the program. I don't know when you get these things. Get with the program. These people, I don't understand you guys. You don't get the program. So anyway. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. Phil says, back in the 1940s, all the Catholic schools were encouraging a classic education, including reading Greek and Roman philosophers. It's why swords and sandal films were so popular. Yes, they actually did read Aristotle. That was my point. Nobody in his class does, but they actually did. Yes. John, nicely done. He says, how do you say communism or socialism without saying communism or socialism? You know what? He is good at that. I'm going to give the man credit. He is good at that. That's true. He is very good at that. Yes, absolutely. And then Why Liberty says, so rebuilding Europe and Japan plus funding Korea and Vietnam had nothing to do with it. No, nothing. It was 91%. Okay? Get it? He said it. Did he bring up any of that? No. Why did he not bring up those things? There's only two choices, right? One, because they clearly didn't matter because 91% is all that matters. And the rich people knew it and they cared so much. They said, please tax us 91% because if we hammer the rich, magically the middle class grows. Even though there's literally no evidence of that whatsoever. I just explained it to you how it doesn't work, showed it earlier. I gave you examples of today, how it's not working. All those things. It could be that. That's one. Or he's an ideologue. It's the first one. It's the first one. That's where it is. Yeah, it's the first one. Yes. Robert says, is he confused about Jekyll Island? Presidents don't control what the tax rate is. They only enforce them. Ooh, I like that. I like that. That's a good point. That's a good point. I like that. Yes. So Phil says there were so many loopholes in the tax code in the 1950s. It was also the rise of legal tax evasion, like a company car. Correct. Thank you. Yes, that's why the tax rate they paid was actually far less. Correct. And not just that, they took their money from the places. Look, in theory, I would do it too. I'm not saying I'm doing it, but it's not tax evasion. It's called tax avoidance, Phil. We're talking about tax avoidance, not tax evasion. Stan, my NSA agent. We're talking tax avoidance, which is legal, not tax evasion, which is a crime, Phil. It's a crime. Don't do it. I would never do that. Tax avoidance is not a crime. In fact, it's our duty as Americans, libertarians, our duty. So yes, making sure we're clear on that one. Absolutely. So, all righty. Shelly says, my uncle had a 2% interest rate on his mortgage. How did that add to the economy? Well, there we go. I like that. Shelly says, Larry is much easier to listen to when I shut off 1.75 speed. If you listen to me at 1.75 speed, Shelly, and you can understand me, well done. So I can tell you, well done. Is my camera okay? Hold on. My camera doing good again? There we go. All right. My camera came off all of a sudden. So yes. All right. Let's see here. If I can grab some more of this. Shelly says, Obama holds right for deportations. Not when it comes to an active hunt. I think Eisenhower's got that one beat. So yes. So yeah. Joel says, Goodwill Hunting College quote, you dropped 150 grand on an effing education you could have got for $1.50 in late charge to the public library. Accurate. Still true. Now you get just for whatever it costs you for your internet. Whatever costs for internet. Everything I did, you could just get on internet. Everything. Yes. Yep. Phil says, 1973, women got their own credit cards. 1974, comedians start telling the joke, women be shopping. You're not wrong. I'm sure there were some women who were unhappy they got a credit card. I'm sure some of them were. So yes. Kim says, putting mom to work led to latchkey kids. Then TV programs were made to babysit the kids and brainwash them. True. The roots of the broken family were cultivated in the late 60s and early 70s. Also true. Yes. Also true. Yep. Kim goes on to say, then in the 70s, schools began handing out 1-800 child abuse numbers if mom and dad spanked. Also true. Everything you just said is true. 100%. Yes. Joel says, remember Cuomo admitting he can't hammer the wealthy. They just leave. Yes. In fact, remember one of the best examples of this. Cuomo was trying to find a way. For those of you who know, Cuomo was the governor of New York before Kathy Hochul, our King Cuomo II, second of his name, grabber of butts. He and killer of grandma and grandpa. He was going to tax transactions for the finance industry. I mean, ton of money if you tax them, ton of money. And they went, are you going to do that? The New York Stock Exchange is going to Austin. He went, what? Yes. New York Stock Exchange, if you do that, we'll pack up and go to Austin, Texas. They actually threatened him. They said it'll go from the New York Stock Exchange to the Texas Stock Exchange or the New York Stock Exchange in Texas. Goldman Sachs says, we're moving to Miami. Literally, he was like, just kidding. I got jokes. I'm Cuomo. I got jokes. We all got jokes. It's funny, right? Hey, women be shopping. He was doing that. That's what happened. He stole your joke, Phil. That's what happened. You're totally he was correct then. Look, I'm not a Cuomo fan. Doesn't mean he's wrong. That's all I'm saying. Mike Valla says, here's the thing, Larry. Activists, politicians, and educators can voluntarily pay up to 100% of tax they want to. Agreed. Let them. None do that. They don't. You're right. It's that they want others' money only for their preferences. Think on that. Yes, look, socialism is awesome when it's someone else's money, isn't it? Right? If I'm taking your money, Mike, socialism is great. I'm going to use all your money, and I'm going to spread the wealth. Larry, you're so good spread. Yeah, it's Mike's money. I'm spreading Mike's money. I love it. I'm going to spread all the you get money. How about your money, Larry? Not my money. I'm keeping mine. I'm giving Mike's out. Socialism is wonderful when it's somebody else's money. But what's that old saying? Socialism always fails eventually, because eventually you're running out of people's money. And in the case of New York, they just leave. You don't have it anymore. So, yes. 1023 says, I attended Larry U and graduated debt-free. See how easy it is? Done deal. It is so easy. Done deal. Shelley said, my economics professor had to look up minimum wage. Yes. Yes. Phil brings up this point to Mike, and it's the one that drives me crazy. It's why I get so triggered. He says, Mike Voss, you're absolutely right. They pretend they're smarter than billionaires and envy their access to money. Yes. It's right on the money, Phil. Right on the money. 100%. Yes. Phil says, Larry U, Dr. Sharpe giving us educational milk for free. Yes, but you can if you want to become a member. It is optional. It's voluntary, Phil. See that? It's voluntary. Yes, it is voluntary. So all good. So John says, unfortunately, people of this mind frame believe there is some brilliant minds behind the curtain, was the Vaz reference. He is saying that we are not smart enough to manage our financial wealth. We need those government figures behind the curtains to make sure we make enough money. Well, no. Well, the issue here is, right, and this kind of goes back, if you remember, there was that guy who was talking about woke left versus woke right. If you remember, that was my show last week. And he brought up a valid, I guess, thought experiment, I would say. He wasn't very clear in exactly what he meant, but the thought experiment was a good thought experiment. And it was, what is groupthink? And which side will often be the, more how does each side see conspiracy theories? It was one of his comments. I think he mentioned he believes that collectivism, if you lean left, is the only way of doing good, right? Collectivism is doing good, right? But if you're on the right, collectivism is how you do bad. So yeah, I think it's kind of interesting in how we think. So yeah, they think, well, to be good, they made decisions that beat up the richest because they are good. But the bad guy is the individual bad guy who wrecked it all, right? That's Orange Man bad, Trump bad guy, Elon bad. He's the individual bad guy. But if we all get together, we'll all of a sudden make great decisions. So yeah. Kay-John, come remember, thank you. I think I just learned how revisionist history begins. Yes, you just saw it. You literally just saw it. Yes, you did. You just saw it. Yes. So Kim says, fringe benefits came along in the 50s to entice workers to quit a job for better benefits as there was a labor shortage. Yes. Correct. That's exactly the point. Yes. There was a labor shortage. Of course you had that. Yes, of course. That's the point. I completely agree. So, all righty. Dave says, Larry, allergic to cats? That's what allergy shots are for. Or, you're right, or I could just not have a cat. Either of those. I'm not against cats. I don't care about cats. Cats are fine. Whatever. Pets are part of the family. I don't care if you like birds or my daughter likes hamsters. All good. But I'm going to not have a cat. I'll have a dog or a hamster or something. It's all good. So, yeah. All righty. Let's see if I can keep going down here. Grab a couple more of this. I enjoyed this. I'm glad. You guys can send me more. I'm happy to do it. I thought that was interesting. So, yes. Phil says, maybe we should suggest a video that lowers Larry's blood pressure. He has a lot of capacity, but it's not worth pushing limits. It might be fun. So it could be fun, I think. That's something, I guess. So, yeah. Matt says, I was looking up keto desserts and most like 3 net carbs, but I know total is more than that. Yes, my daughter is a baker and she bakes keto desserts all the time. And not all the time, every week or so. And when she does it, I think I'm still in ketosis. I don't gain any weight on it. I think it's still working. So yes. To go facts, thank you for the $10. What is your opinion on why people, Dems, Republicans, etc., believe what they do in spite of facts? Idealism versus facts. I bring this up all the time, Duke, and people get mad at me. Mike gets mad at me. He's like, that doesn't make any sense because Mike's all logical. And I'm like, voting isn't logical. If voting was logical, I'd be governor of New York. Voting isn't logical, right? It's emotional. It's everything else. It's everything mixed together. Yeah. The problem we have, Duke, is over time, we become accustomed to a thought process, whatever that is. So we lean in that direction. It becomes a whole lot easier to accept that, right? There's a piece of that in the book. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book years ago called Blink. Some of you may have read it. The book Blink talks about how humans are trained to make snap decisions, quick decisions, things like that. It's kind of their job, right? It makes our life easier. We don't have to rethink everything. We do it in politics too, belief systems, what the case may be. One of the things we decide is an individual that we trust to believe in, well, then their word becomes true. It's easier to accept. So when my talking head on MSNBC or Fox News says Trump is good or Trump is bad, I then believe Trump is good or Trump is bad. Why? Because the talking head said so. But not just that. When we hear the same thing over and over again, we tend to believe it, whether true or not. So if my friends tell me, Trump is a bad guy, and then my other friend tells me Trump's a bad guy, Then my mom tells me Trump's a bad guy. Then I see on TV, Trump's a bad guy. I go, Trump's a bad guy. And then here comes Duke going, well, is he really a bad guy? Is he not? Here's some data. And I go, yeah, but like 5 people told me he's a bad guy. I know you got facts, but 5 people, he's a bad guy. And I think it does wind up happening that way. Our environment affects us more than the actual facts, right? There are 6 laws of influence. There could be more, but there's 6 by a guy named Dr. Robert Cialdini. He wrote a book back in the 80s called Influence, Science, and Practice. Dr. Robert Cialdini, it is the Italian spelling, Cialdini. Brilliant guy, I think out of Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. It's the ultimate book on influence, and it's like 30 years old now. He's written more of them since. The last time I remember was like a 5th edition, that too, but edition. I don't know how many editions he's had since then, but it was a 5th edition. And the 6 laws are the law of authority, meaning that if we believe that if we have put the person in a position of authority, we are more likely to believe them. Those students are very likely to believe that teacher, even though he's full of crap, because he's in a position of authority. So authority doesn't matter. The law of liking. So if we like somebody, we are more likely to believe them. Again, whether they're telling the truth or not, we're more likely to believe them. So liking matters. And liking can mean physical attraction. It can mean personality. It can mean something like whatever. It could be that. Law of consistency. We want to believe consistently. So if I tell you, I'm a guy who loves the environment, and you say, okay, great, here's an environmental situation. Can you help me? I'm more likely to say yes, because I've said publicly that I am that thing, right? So hold on. Authority, liking, consistency, reciprocity. The law of reciprocity is if you give me something or do something for me, I'm doing something back for you. So one hand washes the other, right? If you do something for me, I'm more likely to do something for you. If you give me something, I'm more likely to give you something back, right? So all of those things come together when it comes to that law of reciprocity. If I give you a gift, you're more likely to show up at my event, right? All those types of things, right? They've done studies with they do surveys and they put $1 in the envelope. Some of you may have gotten it. They went up to $5 at one point. And because you got the money, you getting the money, if you take the money, you're more likely to actually fill that out, right? You're more likely to fill that out. And then you'll get the survey. So they're paying you for the survey, but they're not officially paying for you. They're saying, hey, here's a gift for opening up the letter. If you take it, you're more likely to deal with the survey, right? So I hope that makes sense. There's 2 more laws. Hold on. So liking, authority, reciprocity, consistency. There's 2 more. I think I've forgotten the other 2 laws. Hold on. I'm going to find it right now. There are 6 laws. Hold on. It's been so long. I haven't taught this, and last time I taught this was probably 10 years ago. But there are 6 of them. There we go. The last 2. Social proof and scarcity. Those last 2. Social proof and scarcity. Social proof is if other people are doing it or seeing it or believing it, I'm more likely to believe it. Social proof. And then scarcity. If the thing people are saying that is doing or happening seems like there's a time limit or it's special in some way or unique, I'm more likely to care and want to act. Those are the 6 laws. So I forgot those last 2. It's been a long time. Sorry, guys. I should have known that. I'm looking over at Instagram, and Keith says most socialists have no money of their own. If they do, they're not giving it to you. So yes. John says dogs are better. I happen to think dogs are better, but I'm a little bit biased because I'm allergic to cats. But yes, I'm with you on that one. I do think that to be true. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yes. All righty. Americua over on Rumble says 2 great shows in a row. Greatly appreciated. Oh, thank you. He also goes on to say that professor also didn't talk about the oil embargoes of 73, 78, and 79. That would not fit his narrative. So why would he do that? Doesn't fit the narrative. Of course he wouldn't, right? Of course he wouldn't. So yeah. All righty. Grab some more of these if I could. All righty. I do want to keep going down this. You have so many that I want to make sure I grab some more of these if I can. So, all righty. Roger says, oh, he's talking to Phil. All right, scratch that. It's not talking to me. It's talking to Phil. Sorry about that. Shin says, Larry, what do you make of Trump going after U.S. universities, museums, and intellectual spheres? I think people are okay with it because of what I just showed you, right? I don't like it, to be fair. Of course I don't, but I get it, right? As I keep trying to tell people, right? Because of things like this, And it doesn't change and hasn't changed for years. They're like, we don't care anymore. And if he wants to go after them, fine. We're just letting it go. We want change so badly that we don't care how it happens anymore. And I'm not happy that that's the way it is, but I'm just being realistic. That is the way it is. As Americans, like, we don't care. We'll take it. Just change something. Just fix something. If it means okay. We're okay with him grabbing people and throwing them out of the country. We're okay with it. Yes, absolutely. So, of course, I don't like it, but all I'm saying is I get it. I understand why it's happening. I understand why people are doing it. I understand why no one's even thinking about it, because they're like, hey, look, I need help. And if that's what it takes, fine. That's the issue. John says he offered to make drinks for the rich coming back to New York State. Cuomo, I remember that. He offered to cook. He said, I'll cook. Come on back. That's what he said. I remember that. He said, I'll cook. Is that crazy? That is, but yes, he did do that. Yeah, got you. Roger says, just got here. Don't know what you're talking about, but here's my take. I'm not hawkish on taxing Musk/Bezos. Because why? Yes, because they provide something society needs. I've allowed to transition them to worker co-ops. Agreed. Yes, I'm with you. Look, I'm about workers getting ownership if at all possible. I would love more workers to own more parts of the business. I'm on board 100% with that. You and I together. Yes, yes, and yes. I wish we did more and more of that. The more people would have ownership, the better we would be. So yes. So Ingrid says, between you and your followers, I've become curious about libertarianism. Do you have a title of a book I can read about it? Yes. The best book for a starter, I think that for me at least, is a book called The Law by Frederick Bastiat. The book's written in like 1830, maybe 1840s. And it is about how broken the French system is. And same as our system now. No difference. It's short. You can read it in one day. It's a short book. It's the way you start. It is called The Law by Frederick Bastiat. You read that, you are set. That's what matters. So yeah. All right, guys, let me ask you one more time. Click that button known as like. Do that if you would. Share this if you can. It does matter. Every single share does matter. If you have not become a member, if you haven't followed me on X and Rumble and YouTube, you want to be taxed 91%. That's all I'm saying. That's what you're telling me. You're saying I want to be taxed 91%. Please follow me on those things. If you can, subscribe on YouTube. Please, wherever you're watching this, I don't care what you're watching on. Some of you are watching on X, some of you are watching on Instagram, some of you are watching on Rumble. Wherever you are watching this, take yourself over to Sharpe Way YouTube and subscribe. I need more subscribers on Sharpe Way YouTube. So if you haven't already subscribed, go subscribe over there now. Go there, click subscribe button, and then when you're done, click all notifications so you get notified when I'm going live. It does matter. Please do so. I appreciate it, guys. Please do that. Every little bit counts. I would like that to happen. It does matter. John says, damn it, now I need a Rumble account. Yeah, but so, yes. Yes, I love it. We'll give it a shot. Guys, I'm going to let you all run. I'll be on tomorrow at 1 p.m. for my radio show. As always, tomorrow at 1 p.m. And I'll be on again tomorrow night, probably around 7 or 8-ish. I don't know when, but I will figure it out. Please, if you would, after this is over, please head on down and tell me if you would. You know what? No, don't do that, because then YouTube will get mad at me. Okay, I was going to say something that YouTube will get me mad. Don't do that. I'm sorry. Instead, put an interesting reason, any reason you want. I'll respond to it. A reason why we have financial wealth gap in America today. Any reason you think we have financial wealth gap in America today. I will see you all